Models for Learning Design has been a great journey in breaking down instructional design and redefining it as a perpetual process. I am currently in the process of finishing up and revamping some of my own courses and find myself becoming more and more competent in making, editing, and critiquing them. One of the most valuable lessons I learned is to always satisfy two questions. Does the course fulfill its objectives? And does the course content fit the intended audience regarding difficulty, prior knowledge, and expectations? A model that was central in helping the class, including myself, advance in content design is the Addie Model. Addie stands for Analyze, Design, Develop, Implement, and Evaluate. They are interrelated because evaluation connects them all in a recurring process to allow continuous development. The main users of the Addie model are designers in any field. Those who are creating things to train and develop usually follow this model because it's effective in applying evaluation for every step, making each step accountable to its contributions by placing more emphasis on it, having it to be the best possible. They use it because it's simple, effective, and flexible. I personally used this model to put together my latest course for the signature assignment. I did not, before using it, realize the importance of evaluating and developing all stages of an instructional design rather than just the final product. During the analysis process, you answer questions such as why? Why this design? With that, you identify the problem that this design attempts to solve and the significance of the content. The target audience, the learners, are usually what decide the complexity of the content and the required prior knowledge. After figuring that out, it is important to decide how much and what kind of prior knowledge to expect. I used this in my signature assignment to think about why I believe the topic is significant, who I was targeting as my audience, and how knowledgeable I expect them to be. My course requires a learner to be an experienced instructor who has some background in teaching English as a second language, and maybe has problems reaching out to their classroom at an equal level. While thinking about those things, I began developing my own objectives, which have been changing as I evaluated and re-evaluated my ideas and thoughts with the help and guidance of the course instructor as well as my classmates. In the design process within the Addie model, you put together different strategies that you believe will fulfill your objectives. Aligning outcomes, assessments, and strategies is the core of this part, all the way to the evaluation plan. In this segment of the signature assignment, I used different strategies that would engage learners and assess their understanding of the topic at the same time, while giving me an idea of how to both evaluate them and the method of learning. More specifically, I used 4 different activities with formative assessments. The 4 activities would explore the content and allow learners to experience using different methods of assessing themselves, and in turn allow the instructor, me, to evaluate the activity as a fit in adding value to the learners. In this phase, designers begin putting together prototypes after utilizing tools and materials available. This is the step directly before implementation, so it's usually very critical for designers to realize, analyze, and respond to feedback on the prototype. The prototype is the first testable output of the design. It helps to have friends, colleagues, and other professionals go through the design, work out the glitches, issues, and hindrances before exposing it to the target audience. In my case, I used this phase to show the content to some friends and professionals in order to evaluate content and delivery. After going through this a few times, using feedback to evaluate the design, I evolved the plan from a one-sided lecture style course to an interactive, activity-based course. The thing it helped me with the most is coming up with rubrics for assessments that would help me with assessments of learners and the evaluation of the course. Basically, everything that I have learned from developing my course is the complete use of this model to have continuous feedback between myself and my learners. This, in turn, as explained by facilitated sessions within the course, gives me the ability to not only grow as an instructor and a designer, but to also help my students grow as well with me. Developing is like planting. You use nutritious soil or content, water it or build on it, and give it some sunlight or expose it to others to help it grow. The implementation phase is when the experience is fully developed and exposed to the target audience. Feedback, revisions, and usage analytics are critical because they come from another perspective, a learner's perspective, who will actually either learn or not learn from the design. Feedback includes information from interactions, formative assessments, and summative assessments. In this phase of my assignment, I published the course as well as all the related content and made it public. At this phase, all I could do was wait for feedback and assessment results for those who actually attempt the course activities and complete the surveys. My signature assignment is a self-paced online course that is not limited to being taught online by a facilitator. So assessing learning is on a volunteer basis, but mandatory for those seeking a completion certificate available semi-annually. I did not think before comprehensively going through the evaluation part of this course that you begin with the end in mind. I used to treat design as a build-up that should lead to an end, but not an actual framework that connects the beginning and a planned end together. So when I read that successful planning means beginning with the end in mind, my view of strategies changed to links between the beginning and end rather than a web full of things that would be nice to know by the end. With the introduction of uses of formative and summative assessments, I felt like I discovered a whole new level of development. Formative assessments are not about grades like they show repeatedly throughout schooling years, through tiresome grading and constant deflation of student confidence. Learning that formative assessments are mostly for the instructor to evaluate and develop instruction shed a new light on assessments. My open-ended question, however, remains: why are students punished with formative assessment grading when they are reflections of instruction rather than learning potential? This leads into the summative assessment pool, which deals with looking at how successful the learning outcomes are. These are also ways to evaluate the design while assessing the student, but mostly it's about the student learning outcomes. In my signature assignment, I used all the information from the readings and facilitated sessions to remodel my module into activity-based with the integration of formative and summative assessments. The rubric for the formative assessment encouraged students' learning while providing the instructor, me, with information on how effective the learners were at using tools and instructions provided. The summative assessment, however, in the form of a signature assignment, was purely to test how the learner is able to put together everything that was learned in the activities. It is a test of what the learner learned and how they use that knowledge. Perhaps the most important takeaway is the difference between assessment of students and the evaluations of a course in this section. The feedback tools that are used for course evaluation are direct contact through email or an anonymous survey that allowed the option of providing an email address for possible contact in the future for either clarifications or development information. My progress in the program was significantly augmented by this course because of reinforced use of Addie and the constant evaluation from beginning to end. What I would like to improve on is a development process towards a prototype. My true gap in experience is completing development and implementation because of technological limitations that were recently solved by simplified online platforms that host courses and allow online design. My observation of connections between this course and others I'm taking is the intersection of ideas, such as the recent lessons in formative and summative assignments that stretch between this one and 2 others at the same time. Outside of school, I began to evaluate how academia deals with all of these topics that were covered, from curriculums to lesson planning to instruction in the classroom and testing and assessment. Sometimes I found myself shaking my head, while others I found myself going, "Oh, now I get the idea behind this." What I have learned influenced my choices in becoming a more serious instructional designer, as well as an educator. It was very enlightening to go through all of the topics and use them in the assignments. While the course is limited by time, the information is definitely boundless in time, as we all move on with it, of course. Thank you for exploring my reflection. Please find my references on this slide.